There's a Tartarian red brick.
One of the characteristic features.
The red brick, all the Tartarian buildings seem to be made of the same red brick, all the same architecture. All right, guys, how you going? Welcome. I'm Campbell from Autodidactic, and we have Berserker there as well. And today we're going to talk about Tartaria and what is it. Now, you may have heard of Tartaria and mud flood and things like that. And today we just really wanted to find what we mean when we talk about Tartaria. Tartaria, when you look into it, you'll find it's also called Tartary or Great Tartaria. And so we're on Infogalactic here, and the mainstream narrative tell us Tartaria was a name used from the Middle Ages until the 20th century to designate the great tract of northern and central Asia stretching from the Caspian Sea and the Ural Mountains to the Pacific Ocean, inhabited mostly by Turkic peoples after the Mongol-Turkic invasion, incorporated the current areas of Pontic, Caspian Steppe, Volga, Urals, the Caucasus, Siberia, Turkestan, Mongolia, and Manchuria. So as you see there, what they're saying is Tartary is a piece of land. It's a tract of land that encompasses many different peoples and many countries, and they are not saying that it's a country. But down here, if we go to, we've got East Tartary, and they've actually got a map here with Tartary written on it. As you can see, it says Tartary here, and so that what they're trying to say is, well, there was different regions that sort of came under Tartary, but it wasn't a country. So what we want to show you here today is it actually was a country. It was one of the largest countries that in recent times, definitely, and we have evidence of it being a country going back to the sort of 1200s, and it suddenly seems to start disappearing around the 1700s, and by the 1800s it's pretty much gone.
Why was our attention shifted? Because that's all it is. It's a narrative. You know, if your attention is shifted, think about it of a ship on course. You know, if you steer it off course just a degree here, 100 miles down your path, you're going to be 500 miles off your target. When we say Tartaria was the biggest, we're not saying contiguous on land, all connected. We're saying spread out, and it's more of an idea when we refer to Tartaria in our research that we do about architecture. It's not necessarily referring to what Campbell just detailed for you is the actual area in Siberia and China. When we say Tartaria, we're referring to the idea of the whole global empire that we seem to see their evidence of in the architecture, also landscape, things of like Starfort and stuff like that. Tartaria doesn't even get brought up when you talk about that mainstream.
What we do see, like Berserker said, is we see common architecture and building styles right across the earth, and they all seem to come from the same society, the same peoples. So as far as Tartaria, when we talk about the concept, we are also talking about all the Tartarian buildings seem to be made of the same red brick, all the same architecture. Okay, so guys, here's a couple of maps, and as you'll see, this one, they're all, as you'll notice with these maps, the borders of Tartaria change quite a bit as far as how much land it covers. And this one we can see where we've got India here, we've got Russia, we've got China, and a lot of Western Europe going across to Europe, and it's all named Tartaria. Here's another map. You can see China underneath, and up here, Tartaria, China. So that was Chinese Tartaria. So as it went through the ages, it did tend to get split up into what was called like Chinese Tartaria and Tartaria in different places.
There clearly was a geographical region, Tartaria. I think that's a point to be noted, though, because when therein may lie the confusion. Because when we're talking about architecture that we see, like if somebody's just taking a cursory look at our stuff and they see us talking about architecture in America, and then we say Tartaria, and if they go look at the reference and see that it's a place in Siberia, right there that can turn them off. So like, I
Yes.
think, not to be guilty of getting words confused. It's like, yeah, the definition is paramount of the idea of Tartaria, because we're, again, to lay it down, we're not necessarily referring to that area. We're referring to the characteristics of the people
Exactly.
seem to
Yeah.
be realm wide.
With Tartaria, with the research, most of it, when it started, it actually came out of Russia. You can see on the maps, most of this land is, Russia, China, that kind of area. But what we found when we started doing research is that the architecture and many other things, and this includes things like star forts, which we'll get into later, even street lights, bollards, fencing, all these things are domes on buildings, archways, the particular way that the buildings are set out and designed. It seems to be the same. So they're all through what we know as Tartaria, but we've found them all through Europe, through the Americas, even Australia and Africa. Like Dustin says, when we talk about Tartaria, we're talking not actually about the landmass or the country. We're talking more about a previous culture or civilization that seemed to have spanned the whole earth. So that's the definition. So we don't want you to get confused that when we say a Tartarian building, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in the region that they mark out as Tartaria.
Cultural diffusion. As far as the term to use, your culture gets diffused in the places that you go to.
The clothes of the Tartarians is very much as what we're told these days as sort of Persian or Islamic style, which is also the style that we see, in all the old sort of depictions of fairy tales and all these old, what we call medieval, they all have these kind of clothes on. Here's another map. So these are just really to show you that Tartaria is on maps all over the place.
It might also be referred to as Grand Tartary, like Gran, Grand Tartary. But yeah, look at how big that is. Look at that. Look at that. I mean, Siberia is massive. Russia's the whole tract of land is just absolutely massive. So I just harken back to Mongolia. I always thought that was fantastic. You think of Genghis Khan and Kublai Khan, and if you're going to talk about Mongolia as far as the largest contiguous empire ever in history, or as far as England goes in their empire across area, not contiguous, how are we not talking about Tartaria? So that begs the question of why was it, or why were we not taught this? Why does it seem to be systematically covered up, both in literature and physically in architecture? It begs the question, why were we not taught this in school? It's the biggest empires in our history that we seem to see characteristics all over the place.
Yeah, and they seem to have had a huge impact as well on things like, architecture, and what we'll get into later is even things like energy and grid systems. This culture that we're calling Tartaria seem to have really sort of spanned the earth and built their culture everywhere, and that is what we are now building on top of. This is why everything is under our feet, under the dirt. It's an old civilization.
What I think of with that, Campbell, that makes me think of is how this research kind of incorporates, and how we like to solicit with our research and the website that we have, Mewe, is people from a bunch of different genres of research. This rabbit hole, I'd like to call it, or this research, spans a whole bunch of different genres as far as like geology, architecture, because when Campbell just referenced layering, what geologists may say is sedimentary layers, we think may be evidence of a purposeful cover-up. Okay, so then we have to start questioning, even at a certain level, not the whole entire practice, but of archaeology and what they call layering and sedimentation, because we think if it was purposely done, then it has to be questioned. Again, we're not making any definitive conclusions here. We're just in a very general sense showing anomalies and pursuing them, and there seem to be a lot, and that's why we need the help. And that website does help out. Yeah, check it out.
Definitely, and again, it's something like we said, it's because this spans the earth. This kind of research and all this information and all the relics, basically, of this civilization, they're everywhere, guys, and we can guarantee you that they will be close to where you live now. You'll be able to find relics of this civilization, which is why it's so exciting, but also why it's such a huge topic. because it's everywhere. And as you can see, this picture, this is Empire of Tartari, and this is a flag. Regions of land don't have flags. Only countries have flags.
It's all about the flags. Flags are very important. Flags distinguish tribe effectively.
Definitely does. This is not the best picture, but this is actually a lot of different flags from Tartaria. And what I was going to say before Dustin said about we don't get taught any of this stuff. Now, when you look into history, you'll find that people like Marco Polo actually reference Tartaria in his book of travels. Now, we've all been taught about Marco Polo. We all know that name, but you've got to ask the question, why did they leave out that he went to Tartaria?
Yeah, this research tends to lend credence to the fact that realm seems to be a lot more fantastical than we're told. You know, that sparks the intrigue of people who are interested in this kind of stuff. It seems that this realm is a lot more fantastical, Campbell, than we're told as far as the mainstream goes. And, you know, as pseudoscience, this type of research can't be taken off the table. It has to be looked at with a discerning eye from a bunch of different angles, from a bunch of different people. Hopefully that's we can attempt to accomplish that. This stuff can be right out your door. What I'm bringing to the table in my research, because it is right outside my door in Buffalo. There's railways all over the place. There are anomalous buildings that when I look up the history and the architecture of them, I have serious questions. And it just keeps on mushrooming into another rabbit hole and another rabbit hole. I can't tell you how interesting it is, but yeah, it could be right outside your door. It's very intriguing.
Like you said, as we've found this year especially, you know, so much has been hidden from us, and we know about the whole free energies being hidden and all this stuff, but what we're finding is that the story that we're told of our past and our heritage is it hasn't been changed slightly. It seems to be just completely like Dustin said, they've gone out and they've hidden our history from us. And the question is why? You know, what are they hiding? What are they hiding from us? What don't they want us to know? And the world definitely seems like it was a lot more fantastical. I think what we're starting to see is that the past was a lot more like all these fantasy movies we're shown, you know, Lord of the Rings.
The Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones, that one, yep. So this is the thing with Tartaria. There is so much out there. There's so much hit. You know, it's definitely provable that this was a place. There were lots of people there that had their own tech, and we are now finding bits of Tartarian culture all across the realm, all across Earth. So yeah, we just sort of wanted to introduce you to the concept of what we're talking about. As Dustin said, it can be confusing when we say Tartaria and then we start talking about buildings in America. So yeah, we did want to let you know the definition. It really is more of a culture and a civilization that's left footprints all across the earth that we are picking up. And it's called Tartaria because that seems to have been like an epicenter, or at least the last, you know, vestige of this great sort of culture or old world civilization.
From the Niagara Falls basin of those anomalous structures, of the power generating plants, to the city of Dresden, to even the Orient. We just see these characteristics all over. So there seems to have been a systematic cover-up of it, and we'd like to know why.
We definitely would.
Well, number one, look at that guy. I see that guy, the tartar head and the hat. What does that remind you of, though? It reminds me of St. Basil's Cathedral and the onion domes, right? So is that symbolic of like the energy of that they were seemingly harnessing from the aether? And do we also have that energy? Look at where that dome is, right, on its head. Do we also have that energy in our head? And you have to say we're researching things that are like saying that seem to be that they were harnessing free energy with those domes. So what's the real narrative? Were they using, and a lot of these old pictures, like these old maps that Campbell was just bringing up, they show these huge cathedral type things within these star forts. So were they centers for something? Were they centers for somatic resonant healing? And that's a whole nother characteristic of research of this rabbit hole. What were they doing with the applications?
That is another big thing about Tartaria, is when you start looking into it, is the geometry. as Berserker mentioned, we have star forts, which are all shaped like stars, like the star shape we know, but then we have domes. You know, all the buildings are symmetrical. We have water everywhere. We have all these arches. We have pillars, antennas, spires. Just everything is designed for a reason, and that is a big part of our research. Is what was the reason? And so we definitely will be getting into the in a future episode. We'll be hitting what we're terming as Antiquatech, basically the technology of the old world, as we're calling it. And it seems, you know, we're told that we're evolving, that, you know, we've started from, you know, cavemen, and we're now at the pinnacle of evolution and technology. But looking into the past, it seems that we've actually been devolving, and that what they had in the past far outweighed what we have now. By reference, you can, when you see the amount of building went on and that they didn't pollute and destroy the earth while doing that, you know, it's a bit of a picture that, you know, they had it together a bit more than we do at the moment.
It seemed that they were working more with the earth and the energy of the earth in unison. Yes, for sure. Using, for example, like the Marley machine, energy from the earth and the earthworks is another fascinating. Yeah, it seems that whether it was harnessing with the steeples and the aether energy, or just utilizing mechanical energy transformation from moving water, obtaining it that way, and it would be still free. You know, talk about free and clear energy. Boy, does it seem that they were doing that. And it seems like everything now is just completely messy and dirty. And look at how dirty you think of the Industrial Revolution. You know, that's what we were taught. You know, instead of being taught, but now to think back and what we learned about the Industrial Revolution and what was that? Was that an entire construct? Why were we learning about that instead of like Magellan meeting the Patagons and, like you said, Marco Polo going to Tartaria? And you apply that, literally apply. They know how these formulas work. When I say they, whatever. They know how there are formulas that they do it. It's in this book. It literally is. There's a formula, and Behold the Pale Horse is called the Rothschild equation. And they certainly apply it to your attention as far as what you're studying, or whatever. They can literally. I guess we say it's kind of almost like spellcraft. But yeah, if you have someone's attention diverted, or like a red herring, like a literal red herring, it's very easy to shape a narrative or to get people to, I guess, think a certain way, or at least not look at something, right? Like look over here, not here. And that lends to their craft.
It definitely does. And yeah, we're finding that the more we get into this, what we think is sort of reality is probably just more of a grand illusion. And of course, being 2020, the veil is lifting, and we're starting to see the world and our heritage and our past for what it really is. Because as they say, guys, if you do not know your history, you are destined to repeat it. And so that's a big part of why we do what we do. And of course, as Dustin's mentioned, this is an ongoing research project. There's lots of us involved, lots of channels. So if you head on over to our Mewe, we'll leave the link below. We've got a group going, and you'll be able to find as much information as you're looking for, basically, and people that can sort of answer your questions and steer you in the right direction.
Oh yeah, just to add on, Campbell, it's very interactive in that sense, as far as, you know, it's a little bit more of an addition to just leaving comments on, for example, Campbell's channel or my channel. Of course, we like that, and of course, keep doing that. But Mewe is a little bit more interactive in that, you know, you have to have a profile to get in. It's a little bit of a filter, no big deal. If you're interested in it, you'll do it, and we can have a little bit more interaction with you. You can actually make an audio comment, which I didn't even realize that. It's very cool. Fluent. Yeah, it's very fluent, and it's very neat, and it's very clean, and it's very easy to add stuff to. So we encourage people who are interested, and you can just look stuff up and research on your own, or you can contribute. And that's what's really special about that, because it makes it interactive. And we do need the research, we do need the help, and we like to help to show you how to do it. And then, because this stuff could be right outside your door, and then we could use that boots on the ground right there. So head on over there, please. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have moderators there. So yeah, if you leave a comment or whatever, or a question, it will get answered on Mewe. As Berserker said, we can't guarantee it on our videos, just because the sheer amount of comments that we get. That's why we started this, to make it a bit more specific to people who are really after the research. So there we go. That looks like episode 1. Thanks for joining me there, Berserker. Hope you all enjoyed that. Like I said, this is going to be an ongoing series, and we'll be back in a week or so with part 2, and you're going to have to wait to find out what that is because, oh,
The battle axe banhammer.
Berserker.
Yeah, that's what. Research only at Mewe. We don't want it. I'll lay this down real quick. We want it to be a release from the current zeitgeist of the politics, and yeah, please be respectful and professional about that. It's more for this type of research, topic specific. None of the fear porn cortisol stuff. Please just keep it research specific. We appreciate that. We appreciate your insight, and thank you.
Yes.
Yep.
And thanks for joining us. Links for Mewe and Dustin's channel, Berserker Bear, are below. So make sure you go check out Berserker Bear. Give him a like, a subscribe, show him some love. He's got some great work, great research. So thanks for spending some time with us, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channels. Hit the bell so you're notified of upcoming videos. And of course, remember that his story is not our story, and the past is actually under our feet, not behind us. Have a spectacular day, and we'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.